I
9 mois.
think we can start. We have most of the participants in.
Perfect.
Right. So hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
I'm Amy, the brand ambassador of Crystal Wines. Thank you for joining our Chateau Lagrange virtual tasting today. Before we begin, as usual, just to let you know that we have muted everyone to reduce background noise. If you have any questions, feel free to type it in the group chat or private message myself or Crystal Wines. There's a participant named Crystal Wines. That's my colleague Cheryl. Let us know whatever questions you have. We will post it to Matthieu Bordes, the general manager of Chateau Lagrange. Today we have something very different that we're doing. I'm sure all of you have the wine samples in front of you. Great news! You can start to open your white wine. The Arums de Lagrange 2018.
Yeah.
This one. Okay, just pour it in your glass, let it breathe for a while. Okay, we will be tasting it very shortly. So I've just introduced Matthieu Bordes. He's the general manager of Chateau Lagrange. We will be playing a 10-minute video for all of you today, and Matthieu will be going through this comprehensive and in-depth video. Very interesting. I've taken a look at it. So yes, without further ado, I will hand over the rest of the presentation to Matthieu, and he will go through the white wine as well while we are going through the video. So we can start playing the video, Cheryl.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Very pleased to see you. So we will start first by a nice video to present you the estate and how we work at Chateau Lagrange. Then you can explain us anything you want. So Lagrange is a third classified grove, as you know, based on Saint-Julien. Saint-Julien is located in the northwest of Bordeaux, almost 35 kilometers on the northwest, based between Margaux and Pauillac. Then you can see a nice air view video from the coast, and you can see on the right part of your screen what we call the left bank, and on the left part what we call the right bank. Some people say the wrong bank as well. But on the right part, the first appellation you made from the north to the south is Saint-Estèphe. Then you have Pauillac. The small ones in purple is Saint-Julien, and closer to Bordeaux, one of the largest is Margaux. The particularity of Saint-Julien, it's only 920 hectares, which is the smallest one, and 11 classified growth covered 85% of the appellation. We used to say it's the most homogeneous appellation in the Medoc. Lagrange is located in one block on the left, on the southwest of the appellation. Our neighbors are famous as Chateau La Rose, for example, some Dutru-Beaucaillou, Talbot, Braner, and so on. And we have one of the particularity, two main slopes. It's a very old terroir because all these plots belongs to them for more than 400 years and located on the highest point of the appellation, only 24 meters above the sea level. So you have, it's very easy to breathe. You can have in Bordeaux regarding our soil plenty of Cabernet Sauvignon because, as you know, we have much more gravelly soil. And when we did 15 years ago, I did a big study to have the knowledge about the soil because the soil is the key point. It's the first point to produce a great wine. Give me a sandy soil and it will be impossible to produce a great wine. But with gravelly soil as we have at the top of the hill and along the slopes, it helps a lot for Cabernet Sauvignon to ripe. So we found 5 different types of soil on the estate. As far you go to the mid-channel in the south, it's much more clay and sand and a little bit less gravel, until 10% compared to the 80% at the top of the hill. You have in front of you a glass of the white wine, Les Arums de Lagrange. Les Arums, the name came from the flower, the calla lily we have just around the lake of the estate. And Les Arums, we have almost 11 hectares, and it started around 25 years ago, exactly, in 1996. And it's a blend of Sauvignon White and Sauvignon Blanc, and Semillon as well. Sauvignon Blanc, Semillon, and Sauvignon Gris, sorry. Let me tell you a few words about what we can see on the screen. We have different slope, different type of plots, sorry, and depending on where you are located, it's for the first label or the second label. And the white and the Haut Medoc that we will taste are located not too far, 5 kilometers outside the appellation of the estate, outside 5 kilometers in 2 blocks where we produce the white and also the Haut Medoc. The white wine is full of fresh aromas, and I consider that you have always to drink this wine less than 5 years old. We have 1 million vines on the estate. 55 people work permanently with me and help us to produce the best wine as we can. We do all by hand on the vineyard, from the pruning until the shipment. We have, during the growing season, generally just after April or May, we start to extract some wickers, which is not necessary to have on the vines, to aerate a little bit the vines. Then we lift the wires, de-leaf to have much more sun exposure. Usually it's in June, to have much more sun exposure and to destroy the greenest aromas and to ripe faster. All our soil are plowed. We have no herbicide, no insecticide on the estate, and we are very close to environment because we have a very sustainable policy for a long time due to our ownership. As you know, maybe Suntory, the group family, the family group purchased the estate 36 years ago. And then usually in September, it's time to harvest, but it depends on the year. Sometimes we started early in September and the latest harvest was early in October. So depending on the weather conditions you had, it will change for almost 1 month. To pick, I hire up to 220 pickers to go very fast if it's necessary, because the goal is to wait the good ripeness of each plot and to pick at the right time. Is the second key point to produce a great wine. First is the terroir, and second, the date of picking, which is very important. 2 days before, 2 days later, change the grapes you will pick. The chance we have is all the vineyard is in one single block, which never changed for more than 400 years. So as far as we pick the grapes, it's very easy, and we could sort them very quickly, almost 10 minutes later. All the crop are sorted on vibrating table. Then we have a gravity destemmer to separate carefully the berries from the stem, and to finish to be sure there is no vegetal things in the tank. We have the optical scanner. We were the first estate with Chateau in 09 to have such facilities. All the berries are scanned, the 1.5 billion berries are scanned, and the machine say yes or no, depending on what we put in the computer. With my team, immediately after, we decided what we will do, punching down, pumping over the time of maceration, depending on the plots and intra-plot selection. Then I changed nothing. We use a very traditional racking, as we did 200 years ago on the estate with my team. So the wine aged for 20 months in oak, and every 3 months we rack, as you can see on the video, with the candle in a very old style. So it's a natural sedimentation and natural clarification. And 3 months after the harvest, usually in January, we are doing the blend with my team. We are 5 enologists on the estate, my assistant manager, the cellar master, the enologist consultant, Eric Boissonneau, and also the Japanese vice president, Shina-san, who help us a lot. Then, as far the wine is blended, the wine starts to continue to age for 20 months. It's very important to use only French oak, different type of toast, and the wine after 20 months is bottled by ourselves. We are self-occupied to be sure it's done in a best way and to be sure all the bottles are safe. As you can see, we can host a lot of people during all the year, but this year it's a little bit special with the lockdown, but usually it's up to 8,000 people who come at the chateau. We organize plenty of different tasting. We have some room. We have Japanese chef as well. So please, anytime you want to come to Bordeaux, let me know, and I would be very pleased to share with you wines and the philosophy of the estate. To go back to the white, the idea of the white is to have a very nice and very fleshy aromas. Usually with the Sauvignon Blanc, you have a lot of grapefruit. It's pineapple as well on the nose, citrus. With Sauvignon Gris, which is a more tropical notes with mango and Semillon, it's much more peach and apricot. So the blend of these three grape varieties, 71% Sauvignon Blanc, 20% Semillon and 9% Sauvignon Gris on the vintage 2018. It's very complex and easy to drink from now. And please don't wait so long. So usually before than 5-6 years old, to my mind, is the best time to taste our white. If you have some question about the video, about what we are doing on the estate, please, you can interrupt me. And you can ask me anything you want. Don't be shy.
Yeah. Yeah, let us know what you think about the white wine.
Yes. For me, you know, it's funny because in Bordeaux, we did a lot of white before. Several hundred years ago, Bordeaux was very well known for the white, especially in the Medoc. And year after year, they pull out the white and replace by red. So now it's a little bit sort of rebirth of the white in Bordeaux. Several chateaux, almost 20 chateaux nowadays, produce some white in the Medoc part. But it was at the beginning for the auto consumption of the owners. And nowadays it's with the 11 hectares we have, almost 35,000 bottles a year, we can share this wine almost all over the world. 50% of the Les Arums de Lagrange are sold in Asia, mainly Japan, because it matches very well with seafood, of course. So the Japanese are very enjoy a lot this wine, and we sell also some in China, Southeast Asia, and a big part in US and France as well.
Yeah, it's a really very pleasant white wine. I especially like the viscosity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because the process for the white, it's a little bit different compared to the red. You know, for the white, you press immediately the grapes, settle the juice for a night. Then after the juice, you start to ferment in the vat for 2 days, and you put immediately in barrel. And the alcoholic fermentation is going in oak, almost for 10-15 days. Then after, when it's finished, you stabilize the wine and you start to stir in the lees. It's very important. You know, Bordeaux has copied most of the time Burgundy for the white. For the red, they copy us, but for the white, we have copied them. And what is interesting when you stir the lees, it's to remove all the lees, and by crushing the cells of the lees, you give much more fleshy notes on the mid palate. So the wine is much more round and less dry, less tight. And it's also very interesting to protect the wine against oxidation, because you know the main risk of the white, especially the Sauvignon, which is very sensitive to oxygen, is the oxidation. So as far the wine is finished in the barrel, the idea is you never rack until the blend. So for 6 months, the wine aged in oak, 50% new oak and 50% 1-year-old oak. The idea is not to have, it's a special toast, special for the white wine. The idea is not to have much more oaky notes, but oaky notes have to be close to fresh notes and to have a good balance between both flavors and both aromas.
Yeah, it says 50% new barrels. It doesn't seem bad. It feels very fresh, and probably the barrel imparted that nice textural viscosity, and also probably from the Semillon, but very nice.
Yeah, it's a special toast, and it's not exactly the same barrel as the white. It's with French oak, but the toast is totally different. The idea is not to have too much oaky notes. The barrel is just to complete the flavors without overshadow the nice fresh fruit of the grapes.
So there's a question, if we use French oak for this white, definitely, right? 100% French oak and 50% new barrels. Does this Sauvignon Blanc percentage change from year to year? There's a question on this.
Yes, sure. So the blend is not, there is no recipe, sorry. The blend changed almost last year in 2019, the year before, it was hot compared to 18. So Sauvignon Blanc, it's more lively, more acid and more fresh compared to Sauvignon Gris. So we decided in 2019 not to add the Sauvignon Gris in the blend. So it's only Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. So the blend changed, and it's exactly the same also for the oak. We usually age the Sauvignon in a small quantity of new oak and much more of 1-year-old oak, because when the oak is new, you have more transfer of oxygen between outside and inside. And as I told you, the Sauvignon white is more sensitive, so we prefer to put Semillon in the new oak and Sauvignon in the 1-year-old oak, and only a few parts of Sauvignon in new oak also, but mainly to protect the aromas of the grapes, of the wine. Okay.
Shall we all start with, shall we all move on to the next wine, which is the Haut Medoc? Yeah, let's try the Haut Medoc 2016.
So 216 Haut Medoc. What is interesting of Haut Medoc, the idea was a little bit like the white. I'm explaining. So we produce a white wine with nice flavors. You can enjoy this wine for in its youth, and the goal to this wine, it was exactly the same. The grapes are located in the same area as the white, so fresher soil compared to Saint-Julien, and usually on the nose, it's very delicate, very fresh, a lot of red fruit. I advise to drink this wine in its youth also, but you can keep it almost 10 years. But what is interesting is to have the fresh red fruits as we have the fresh white fruit on the white. It's exactly the same for the red. We age this wine in oak, but no new oak, only 1, 2, and 3 years old oak. The idea is not to overshadow the fresh fruits. It's of course delicate, fresh, a live acidity, which is also very important to keep the digestivity of the wine. And we started to produce the Haut Medoc of Lagrange in 2012. The average of the vines are from 10 years old to 40 years old. And the blend is, generally speaking, more Cabernet Sauvignon. On this 2016 is 60% Cabernet Sauvignon and 40% Merlot. You know that 2016 was an extremely good vintage in Bordeaux. For me, one of the top 3 best vintage over the last 20 years. Maybe, yes, in the top 3 for sure. And what is interesting is that we have 13 hectares of Haut Medoc at the moment. And it's a quite small production compared to what we are able to do in Saint-Julien. But what is interesting is on this vintage, it's one of the vintage you have a very large window of tasting. And we start nowadays to work since 2015 to have wines that you can enjoy in its youth, I would say, after a few years, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and without losing the ability of long cellar aging. So because nowadays in the world, even in France, not everyone has a very perfect cellar to store the wine for 20, 30 years. As you maybe know, during the 80s, most of the Bordeaux, you have to wait 10, 15 years before open the bottle. Nowadays, for many reasons, we prefer to have a wine that you can enjoy earlier, but also without losing the ability of aging, because I'm sure that the great wine of Bordeaux are just impressive if you can be able to wait 20, 30 years. But also, most of the people didn't have time and the good storage conditions, so it's interesting to drink them if they are only 5, 6 years old. So there is the idea is not to follow the taste of customers. It's just to adapt and enlarge the window of tasting of the wines to be close to different palates. For the US UK market, they enjoy if it's 40 years old. Mainly market nowadays love the wine less than 10 years old. So with the global warming and with the way we work in the vineyard and the right we could reach, it's very, very interesting to have a wine which is very smooth and silky. And I like this Haut Medoc because it's a very, I would say, friendly wine. You can enjoy easily for the aperitif or with white meat or red meat. And the idea is not to have a very powerful wine. We have the Saint-Julien for that. It was just to make a wine which is very elegant and as the white, but with red fruit.
Yeah, it's very, very fruit forward, and the color is like
the color. Yes, the color. It's because of the level of acidity. The color is very purple. It's very purple. It's it age. Most of our wines age very, very long, very long. Sorry, someone asked me something, but I didn't see the whole sentences.
Yeah, I will read it out. The technical sheet wrote that the first sorting was done by hand on whole bunches, with some whole bunches used in fermentation for freshness, looking at 2016 being a hotter vintage.
Oh, we always destem our wines, or grapes, sorry. So the first is done by hand on a vibrating sorting table, as you can see on the video, and the second one by the optical scanner. And we have no stems or no entire grapes, entire bunches in the vat. We did a trial last year and this year, to be honest. We're thinking about that. We will see. But for the Haut Medoc, we prefer to have only the pure grapes without any greenness.
Yeah, because that's for the freshness, and also 2016 is really a ripe year. So yes. I think it really has ripe tannins. This is very good.
And there, as I told you, the soil is very important. So the terroir of it's much more clay. It's gravel and clay and limestone for the Haut Medoc and the white. That's one of the reasons on a very hot vintage, it still keeps a lot of freshness and a lot of acidity.
Okay. So actually, what do you mean by whole bunches then? I didn't really get that part. Whole bunches is for?
In France, in some region as a Rhone Valley, some estate, by tradition or because of the taste, I don't know, they use the full bunches in the vat and they ferment with the stem. And in Bordeaux, some chateaux, not a lot, started to do some trial or more than trial with some stems. And as we are enologist and engineering school with my team, and we always do a lot of trial every year to test. We tested amphoras, we test the date of picking, 2 days before, 2 days later, to find the best time. We test everything, type of yeast, plenty of things, and oak as well. And the idea is, if it's better, why not? Why not? So we started 2 years ago by adding in a vat some stems. For me, at the beginning, it was like you shoot your heart, huh? Adding some stems in a vat just with berries, and you added until 25% of the volume with stems. If you choose the stems, it could be interesting, but I'm not sure that you can do that every year. So we do some trial, and we will see in the next following years if it's necessary to continue or not. But at the moment, we prefer to have only the grapes in the vat. And with the sorting by hand, with the optical scanner, the idea is to eject it the most as we can, the most waste as we can.
Okay. So to the participants, if you have more questions or regarding the red wine, just feel free to let us know. Otherwise, we'll proceed to our third red wine. But before that, I saw a question.
Yeah.
Do you suggest decanting for this wine? It tastes like it requires some time to be open.
Honestly, for the Haut Medoc, I would like to open, and then you pour and you enjoy in your glass for the next 20, 30 minutes. It's not necessary to open a long time ago before this wine. I prefer when it's on the fresh fruits, and it's not, for me, it's not necessary. But for the Saint-Julien, you will see it depends. 45 minutes, okay. For Saint-Julien, usually some vintage, because of the style of the vintage, because of the time you open the bottle, it's necessary to decant, but not every time, not every time. For the 14, it's necessary, that we will taste later.
Yeah, I think, Kim, if you just leave it for another 10 minutes, you know, it will really open up, and also the tannins will smoothen even further. Yeah.
A little bit smoother.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So let's taste our third wine. Pour the wine in your glass, but let's take a picture first. We'll always forget to take picture. This time I remember. Everyone, yeah, you're ready. We will go to the gallery view. Turn on your video or your camera. Okay, everyone's done that. Okay, so let's all take a picture together. Yeah. Okay, not many people are turning on their videos today. Very, very secretive day. Okay, never mind. So those who have on hand your wine and your glass, okay, on the count of 3, yeah, we'll take a screen grabs. 1, 2, 3. Cheers. All right, thank you. I got a nice picture. Okay, Matthew, let's continue with the third wine, the Fiefs. Second one.
Les Fiefs on the 2016. So you know already the 2016. What makes in Bordeaux a great vintage is the weather conditions. And weather conditions to be good, we have to have not too many rainfall. And in 2016, it was like that. So during the summer period, from mid-June to mid-September, during 3 months, we had only 22 millimeters of rainfall. For you who live in Singapore, maybe it means nothing, but 22, it's like that. Millimeters of rainfall for 3 months. In Bordeaux, a year, it's 900 millimeters. So 22 for 3 months, you can imagine that it's very small. And we had hot weather conditions, but not too warm. It was not a heat wave, but hot and cool during the night. And all of that makes that you produce a great wine. So in 2016, to be honest with you, you don't need to be a great winemaker, because all of you could produce a very good wine. You just have to pick at the right time, put in the vats, and we call usually such a rocking chair vintage. You have nothing to do, and you wait. Fiefs de Lagrange. Fiefs de Lagrange means les Fiefs, it's a part it's an area in a kingdom. It's a part of the kingdom. It's a very old French word that we decided to produce les Fiefs in 1983. The idea when the Japanese owner purchased the estate, they asked my predecessor to make the best Chateau Lagrange ever. So simple. You keep the best plot for the Lagrange, and the other plots that we consider it's not at the level for the chateau, you can put in at what we call a second label. But you have a different way to produce a second label, and mainly two ways in Bordeaux. You can say, okay, I want to make a lot of money, to do a lot of money, and I enlarge as I can the quantity of first label, Grand Vin, and a small quantity of second label, so I can earn a lot of money. But if you do that, the Grand Vin with a quantity is not a good quality, and the second label with a very small is the worst, very small quantity, so a very bad second label. At Lagrange, we are very well known for that because we produce more les Fiefs than Lagrange. Usually it's between 60 and 70% of second label and 30% of Grand Vin. It's very important. You have to understand that on les Fiefs, the average of the age of the vines are around 30 years old. For a second label, it's very, very old. That's the reason why les Fiefs is very well known all over the world as a very, very good value for money. And in this 2016, we had, it was the weather conditions were amazing, and it was the first year that we were so close between the quantity of Lagrange and the quantity of second label. We did 51% of les Fiefs and 49% of Lagrange. But usually it's, as I told you, 70-30 or 65-35. The blend is always much more Cabernet Sauvignon. As you saw already on the video, it depends on the plots, the quality of the soil and the subsoil. Usually we take the wines for the blend of les Fiefs, which are a little bit less powerful, less complex. It's usually on the side of the slopes or at the bottom of the slopes, which much more clay and sand and less gravelly soil at the top of the hill. But I have some very old plots also in this blend until 45 years old. So the idea of les Fiefs, it's to have a wine, it's the small brother of the chateau, if you want, and you can enjoy it earlier than the Grand Vin. But you can also keep it for a while. Usually les Fiefs is from 2 or 3 years old to 25 years old. I say 25 years old because 3 years ago, I did a vertical tasting of les Fiefs, and we were very impressed about the 1990, which was almost 25 years old. After 30 years old, I was a little bit disappointed by the 96 les Fiefs. To my mind, it was the beginning of the fall down. So it's a wine that you can enjoy easily in its youth, but also you can keep it. And you are not, if you don't want to believe me, I agree, but believe me, I tasted blind several times in between some first brand of overclassified growth, and les Fiefs blind will be better than some of them. It's a very, very, very good wine. And what I like in this wine is that the fresh fruit in its youth, as the 16, you have some a little bit oaky notes, but it's only 20% new oak and 80% 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years old oak. The idea is not to over oak the wine and to keep the good balance between the black cherry, blackcurrant, licorice, some spicy notes as well. This wine in 2016, it was a little bit, we were obliged to wait a little bit longer than before to peak. We started the 3rd of October and we finished the 27th of October. Because the weather conditions we had, it was cool during the night, quite hot during the day, and time of ripeness of the phenolic compounds, the color, the anthocyane, the tannins, takes long time. And in the end, the wine is, to my mind, one of the top vintage because it's good in its youth and it will be extremely good after 20, 30 or 40 years.
Yeah, it's very, very pleasurable now. But so your 1990, the Fiefs, is it because it's a very good vintage, therefore it could age?
Alors, it's also because, yes, you're right. If you have a 92, 92 is not a good vintage, and usually a bad vintage you have to enjoy a little bit earlier. It couldn't age so long. So, for example, the last, I would say, not the last bad vintage, but the weakest vintage over the last 10 years is in Bordeaux, the 2013. We used to say that it's the most Burgundy style Bordeaux has ever produced. So 2013, it's very approachable from now. You can drink easily the 2013. The wine, there is no vegetal aromas, but for sure, if you wait 20, 25 years more, it could be, the wine will fall down and it's not necessary to wait. Nowadays in Bordeaux, you have some vintages that you can keep it, you can drink it for a while, or you have to enjoy in its youth. But no bad vintage anymore. For me, the last bad vintage was 92 in Bordeaux. Even 97 was really correct, but the 92. And over the last 10 years, the 2013 was really good. I saw that some people smell mint. I totally agree. Mint and licorice. That's the one you can, it came from the Cabernet Sauvignon. It's typical. Yes, it's typical from our wines. And sometimes you have eucalyptus notes as well.
Okay, maybe we can move on to our final wine. Yep.
The flagship Lagrange,
Lagrange.
on the vintage.
I can't wait.
Yes, the blend is amazing. Alors 14, few words about the vintage. 14, the weather conditions during the growing season were very classic. Means when we say classic, you know, we are close to the seaside in Bordeaux. So we have some hot period, some rainfall as well, some depression, high pressure and low pressure. So it's a sort of balance between both. And I remember that the summer was correct, but not so hot compared to 16 and not so dry compared to 16 or 2019, for example. But we were very lucky in Bordeaux, as plenty of vintages, like the 07, the 08, for example. We had a beautiful, beautiful Indian summer in 2014, because just before the picking, in 40 days, we have only 7 millimeters of rainfall. And you know, it's always much better to have a good weather conditions close to the harvest than a long several months ago. So we knew that during the growing season, it will be a little bit more challenging than the 29 or 2010, for example. So we decided to de-leaf very early to take all the benefits from the sun rays directly on the bunches. And during the summer, we waited. And unfortunately, since the beginning of September, the weather conditions were amazing with a nice Indian summer, as we have quite often in Bordeaux nowadays. So it was a long and late harvest. We started on the 25th of September. We finished the 17th of October. It was one of the latest harvests ever at Chateau Lagrange to date. And the blend is impressive because we succeeded to put 76% of cab in the blend. And you know, the most quantity cab you put in the blend, it means better the vintage is. You can say such sort of things. We said that if you can be able to add a lot of quantity of cab, it means that the cab were really ripe. And you know that Cabernet Sauvignon are picked later than the Merlot. So by adding a lot of quantity of cab, it's a good guarantee for a good vintage. But this vintage, it's very, very classic. It's the last classic style as the 06, the 08, the 10 as well, means that the level of acidity was quite high. So tannins were a little bit tight at the beginning. It was, to my mind, the vintage over the last 10 years that you have to wait a little bit more than before to taste them. And 2014, 2 years ago, was a little bit difficult because tannins were a little bit tight, and I found the wine too young. So it's one of the wines that it's necessary sometimes to decant a little bit. But now, after 6 years, it's really the beginning of the window of tasting of the wine. And to my mind, if you decant, my wine is in the glass for now 1 hour, and the wine is just really, really good, really nice. Very open. So Lagrange, it's always much more powerful, much more concentrated compared to les Fiefs. It's a question of quality of plots and level of selection, plot selection we usually do. Age of the vines are on average 40, 45 years old. And the vinification, the aging is located in barrel, of course, French oak, but 50% new oak and 50% 1-year-old oak for 20 months, compared to the 12 months, the 14 months of the les Fiefs. So the wine is much more consistent. So it could absorb, it could support a longer aging in oak to give more complexity, but always never overshadow the flavor of the Cabernet Sauvignon and the Merlot and the Petit Verdot as well. 6% of Petit Verdot in this blend helps a lot the mid palate. The Petit Verdot is a grape that we have small berries. It's very concentrated, full of tannins. And if you manage very well the vinification, it helps a lot the blend. And usually we do that to boost it, to have a much more mid fleshy palate. And Petit Verdot, we call that doctor wine. So it helps a lot the cab. And to date, with 18% of Merlot, it was the lowest quantity of Merlot ever in a Chateau Lagrange. I'm not a big fan of Merlot, to be honest. I prefer much more Cabernet Sauvignon. So nowadays, over the last 10 years, I put much more Cabernet Sauvignon in your blend.
So you love the show Sideways. There's this show that talk bad about Merlot grapes, that criticize Merlot.
Sorry, I missed the question, but I see one of them. Some people ask me about how long you can age this wine. For sure, at minimum 30 years. In a good storage conditions, 30 years at minimum. Yesterday we had a 1986, and so the wine is 44 years old. Really nice. 96, you know, was a rare, but nowadays all the year we have as 14. The way we work, the way we sort, the way we select, and all the facilities we have helps us a lot to produce much better wine than compared to the 80s or the 70s, even the 90s. Bordeaux did a lot of effort, and with the global warming, especially, it helps a lot the left bank and the Cabernet. So to tell you, just to have an idea, during the 70s, in Bordeaux, generally speaking, when you pick a Cabernet Sauvignon with 10 degrees of alcohol, you open a bottle of champagne because you were so happy to reach such a high level of alcohol, means sugar, in the grapes. Nowadays, we pick Cabernet Sauvignon always between, at minimum, 12.5 until 14 degrees. It's just because of the way we work and the global warming. And by having such a good ripeness of cab means good ripeness of the tannins. Tannins are much more round and fleshy. That's also one of the reasons we can enlarge the window of tasting of our wines in Bordeaux. And nowadays you can enjoy them after 4 or 5 years, but you can lose and forget forgot them in your cellar for 30 years. And it's
that's a question. Will you try some plots with Malbec and Petit Verdot?
So Malbec, we have 6 hectares, 5 hectares of Petit Verdot, but I have no plot of Malbec. At the chateau, in front of the chateau, I have 1 row of each grape variety that you can have in Saint-Julien and in Bordeaux. So all the grape variety, I have 1 row of Carmenère, 1 row of Malbec, and it's funny because they are on the same berries, and you can compare them. Malbec in Bordeaux, especially in Medoc, it's not really good at all. It's like that. Carmenère is awful, honestly. It's very acid. It's never ripe, even in 2016. But if you have Petit Verdot is the good challenger. It's always good, always good. But you have to vinify them very differently compared to Merlot or Cabernet Sauvignon, because it's so much tannin inside that you can have a very harsh and strong wine, which is not elegant. So it's like a tea bag. You put like that in the berries. You do nothing in the vat, and half time compared to Merlot or Cab, you pull out the tea bag, and it's just enough infused. Petit Verdot is very, very helpful. Malbec is not good at all. Malbec is good in South America, or in Cahors, in Argentina, exactly. In Cahors as well. Cahors, they produce beautiful Petit Malbec, and some Côte de Bourg on the right bank of Bordeaux, not so bad.
Okay, so the right bank can take more Malbec than the left bank.
Yes, but they have more Merlot, of course, as you know, and you will see that in the next following years they will plant more Cabernet Franc and also more Cabernet Sauvignon, because the big problem nowadays in Bordeaux is the Merlot. The Merlot, with the weather conditions, you have too high degrees of alcohol. Nowadays, picking a Merlot below 13 or 13.5, it's impossible. If not, you have so unripe tannins and so greenness in the grapes. So you have to wait until 14, 14.5, 15. And in the end, the wine is very heavy, so much alcohol on the nose, it's boring. So because maybe you have 2 different level of maturity. We have what we call the technical maturity, level of sugar and acid, and the phenolic maturity. And what is amazing in Bordeaux is that when the weather conditions are extremely good, but not too contrasted, you have the both maturity which evolve in the same time. But when it's really, really hot, for the Merlot, especially for the Merlot, the technical maturity, the level of sugar increase much faster than the ripeness of the phenolic compounds. And the phenolic compound is the flavors, the color, and the quality of tannins. So in the end, to have a good quality of tannins, you are obliged to wait 14, 15 degrees of alcohol for the Merlot. And for the Cab, it never happens. It's always maximum 13.7, 14. That's the reason why you have much fresher wines on the left bank, to my mind, compared to the right bank.
Yeah, we were just doing a tasting session the other day, and one of the winemakers also mentioned about the phenolic ripeness, and that if it's a really hot vintage, the tannins are not matured enough.
Exactly.
So when you open it when it's young, the flavor intensity covers the unripeness of the tannin, so it tastes good. But once you age it for many years, when the flavors mellow down, then you can tell the tannins. So you agree too? Okay, interesting.
Totally. Forget the Merlot, and I'm sure that maybe you speak about Emeric de Gironde in Trollon-Mondo at the top of the hill in a small clay soil. They will have much more Cabernet Franc in the following years. I'm sure. On the left bank, if I have to work on the right bank, I will plant much more Cabernet Franc and Cabernet Sauvignon. because of the global warming also, unfortunately, but it's good for Cab in Bordeaux.
Okay, so a few more years for you to enjoy good wines at Lagrange because the Cabernet Sauvignon is doing very well.
Exactly.
We have a question. Can you please tell us more about sustainable practices at Lagrange and how that has changed your winemaking in any way?
So we started a long time ago because Suntory family, they are very sensitive to that. So in the 90s, we were the first estate to do a trial with a research company to start not to use insecticide anymore to fight against a butterfly, which is not good for the grapes. So all over the estate is protected by pheromone caps, and we succeeded in not to use any insecticide anymore. We also don't use any herbicide. We plow the soil, we use grass, but we never use insecticide at Chateau Lagrange. And other things, we have 5 beehives on the estate to help to pollinize the vineyard, but also all the trees and flowers we have, because we have 40 hectares of park and garden and lake on the estate. It's very important to keep the biodiversity on the estate. We were in 2005 the first estate in Bordeaux to do the carbon count. The idea was to focus on what we can do to decrease the carbon count of the estate. Last year, for example, we built a new fourth cellar, old cellar, and we use 800 square meters of solar panel to produce 50% of the electricity consumption of the estate, and we use it. We don't sell it, we use it by ourselves. We have plenty of things like that on the estate to try to decrease the impact on the environment. We have 30 hectares on the estate managed in an organic way of farming, just to check if there is some good points that I can transfer to the rest. We are not certified. The idea is not to be certified. The idea is to find the best solution to produce beautiful wines in a normal quantity, normal as we can, but with less as possible of product and thing you have to spray or you have to use to fight, because we are close to the ocean. Last year was a very strong year of mildew because of the rainfall during the spring. So in Bordeaux, it's not easy to manage, but we try to find solution to decrease and to be cleaner and cleaner. We are certified HVE3, which is high environmental level number 3, is the highest level in Bordeaux, and we are also ISO 14001. So we try to do plenty of things to be close to nature, because we consider that it's in the DNA of the estate, the DNA of the owner. And you know, I'm here for maybe 20 years, but the vineyard is still there for more than 500 years. And I'm sure that in next 500 years, we have to keep this place as it is, because it's the best thing we have at Lagrange is the terroir. And by doing that, terroir is not only the soil, but terroir is soil, insect, all this package, if you want. Yeah. So at Lagrange, we try to do our best in this way, and I'm sure that it will be one of the key points for the next generation.
And sustainable practices do increase the quality of the grapes?
Alors, I would say some of them, for sure. Increasing the biodiversity helps you to spray maybe a little bit less, because some new insect or some birds could help you to fight against some bad insects or bad butterfly, for sure. But some of them are more complex. You know, we have, for example, 200 sheep. You say sheep. Sheep, it's to feed, to eat the grass, and not to use truck to clean the marsh or to clean the land. So we use the 200. We share it. We share them with the Chateau Lagrange, but it's not also easy to manage because it's not our job. We produce grapes. We are not farmer at the moment, but it's very interesting also to find some solution. But it gives us some problem as well to manage that. But we try everything, and it's good because they feed you have less consumption of fuel, of gas to cut the grass, and also by their digestion they feed the soil as well, because we can use it in the winter in the interrow in the vineyard. So I think that some sustainable policy could help also, but it's a tough job. It's a tough job, and it's a tough job.
Okay, so I think we have no more questions. Thank you so much for your time, Matthew.
Thank you to all of you for hearing me and for your patience.
Yeah, very good wines actually. It's very different. To be honest, it's my first time drinking a Lagrange. I don't know why it's my first time. It's such a pity. I feel I wasted a couple of years in my life. But this is, I would say, is different because it has that bright fruit notes to it. Somewhat like very bright fruit notes. Yeah, which is not very quintessential Bordeaux, I would say. Bordeaux usually is more restrained, but this has more brightness to it, which I like. It added a lot of life to it. Very good. So I think, Matthew, any last words before we close off the session? Visit you soon.
Yes, of course.
I will, once the French lockdown is taken care of, I think.
And I hope after the next 6 months, I hope it will last less than that. I could travel and be back to Singapore. Yeah. Because my job is doing the wine, making the wine, but also promote the brand. And usually I travel over 100 days a year. And I was several times in Singapore and Asia. I spent maybe 50 days in Asia among the 100 days I travel. So I hope I will be back soon to share with you other vintage compared to 14, maybe 16 or older vintage with you. And if you come to Bordeaux, please let me know. Let me know. Ask Crystal or by Instagram or by Facebook. It's easy to connect. And please let us know, and we will share our vintage, and I will show you the estate in real life.
Yes,
take care.
Our pleasure. Thank you so much. And we just have a last slide, administrative part of things. So of course, our wines are on offer. Yeah, beautiful Chateau Lagrange wines that you just tasted. And you have a giveaway. You can stand to win a bottle of Chateau Lagrange 2008 Magnum worth $290 when you buy $500 worth of any wines from the Chateau Lagrange. That's the link here on the slide. You can just click on it. If you like more of these sessions, just follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Telegram. You get all the news that you want. You can also send your feedback about how we conduct our virtual classes so that we could do more improvements. Send it to marketing@crystalwines.com. So that's all. Thank you very much for your time today. Look forward to the next virtual tasting again. Thank you. You can all leave the session as you please. So Matthieu, there is actually a question, just a general question. I don't know whether the participant is still in. She asked if the large format will age better.
The last, sorry?
Large format. So a Magnum generally will age longer.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, you know why? It's easy to understand. A bottle is 750 milliliters, and the magnum is the double. And the size of the cork of the hole, it's 2 millimeters difference, almost the same. So it means that you have almost the same quantity of air transfer from outside to inside through the cork. But with a magnum, the same air for double quantity of wine. So the wine age slowly compared to the bottle. And on the opposite, a half bottle age faster because the size is almost the same for a very small quantity of wine. So of course, the bigger is the format, the size of the bottle, slowly age the wines. And magnum, we usually say in Bordeaux, magnum is the good format to drink with your wife, especially when your wife is not there.
Yeah, I will not comment on that.
Oh yes.
Actually, I have a question. This is a personal, it's a very technical question which I didn't ask. So, in general, why does Sauvignon Blanc doesn't age as well as a Chardonnay?
I totally agree. If you want to drink a bad vintage of white, prefer Chardonnay. It's because of the flavors. All the flavors of the Sauvignon, it's a special molecule which give the grapefruit, the citrus, the mango, the pineapple. They are extremely sensitive to oxidation. So immediately, if you oxidize this molecule, it smells nothing anymore. You lose the fruit. And Sauvignon white, maybe 95% of the flavors are what we call thiol compounds. Thiol is the scientific word of the molecule, and they are so sensitive to oxygen. And in the Chardonnay, you don't have such a quantity of thiol. Chardonnay flavors is a little bit different molecule. So in the end, that's the reason why the Sauvignon white age faster, much faster compared to Chardonnay.
And is that why you put more Semillon in the Sauvignon Blanc? Does Semillon age better?
Yes, the Semillon age much better. You know, the Semillon is the king grapes of the Sauternes, and this grape variety is less sensitive to oxidation. Exactly. There is much less thiol, and the aromas of Semillon is composed by other molecule. That makes the difference.
Okay. Thank you so much, Matthew. It's just a personal question, but I see that the participants are not leaving yet, so I won't hold anyone up. I'll ask you questions on my own in the following. Yeah, I'll email you my personal questions.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Matthew, for the session. Very
my
good
pleasure.
Session. Thank you. Love the wines.
Thank you.
To enjoy my wines. Very bright fruits.
Take care. Merci.
Take care.
Cheers.
Cheers.